Some reasons you might want to send out SMS to your customers. Obviously, when we say SMS, we mean text messages, and there's a few reasons that they're more useful than email. First among them, it's a lot more. A lot of people don't check their email every day. They do check their text. They see them come in, especially kind of like I think there's a stereotype of like the younger generations, they don't even look at email. They only check text messages. But with our text messaging integration, you can basically do anything that you normally do with email. You can also do with text messaging. And so I think some of the most common use cases are things like staff reminders. If you need to send proposals, it can be, helpful to also send it via SMS. Lead follow-ups, things like that. The thing to watch out, of course, with sending text messages is they can kind of be annoying. So if you're, just blasting somebody with text messages, that's going to turn them off. Like that's going to be something that people, that irritates certain people. And so it's something to use sparingly, maybe a follow-up or two via with leads or
Right.
something is fine, but I wouldn't, I certainly wouldn't do everyday text messages and things like that.
I just want I don't think text is like a replacement for email in Check Cherry. I think it complements it. And kind of if you're in the mindset of something that needs a quick response, staff stuff, are you available things, maybe a quick follow-up, hey, sent you an automated follow-up, hey, I sent you an email. Could you take a look? But if you're scrolling through a text message, you're doing it wrong. It probably should be an email. So you want to keep it quick, short, to the point. And I think, yeah, Matt said, I mean, an email, nobody cares if they get an email at 2 a.m. Text message, not so much.
Yeah, and the other thing with SMS is with text messages, I mean, you have like very limited content. It's not HTML. You can't include like complicated things in it. So if you include a link to something to an invoice, that's going to be a big long URL. So you got to keep them very minimal too. So not a lot, not tons of detail like you would with with an email. So
All that being said, I think every customer at Check Cherry could benefit by adding text in the rotation, of things.
yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so if you're here, you're in the right spot. Yeah, and let's take a look at.
Yeah. So with all that said, with CheckCherry, you do need to connect an SMS provider, and that's going to be under our integrations. Currently, that includes Twilio and now Quo. We'll get into that a little bit later and talk about how to enable those, what they do, why you might pick one versus the other, how to set them up, all that type of stuff. But before we do that, let's just look real quick at how text messaging works in CheckCherry. So basically, it's the same as email. Once you've connected an SMS provider, anywhere that you currently can send an email, if you want to send a one-off email, you can do that under the messages tab, from somebody's booking. You can come in and you can write an email to them, but you can also now send them a text message. And what you'll notice is, there's a phone number pre-filled, there's a content. Instead of, a rich text with bold and italics and all that, it's simply, it's just text. I mean, it can't do as much stuff. But you can also make use of things like templates. If you've got templates in your account, you can choose from those as well. We do support the send later feature. So if you're working on something at 3 a.m. and you don't want to send that right now, I think that's useful with email, but it's real useful with text messaging. And we'll default to usually the next day in the morning or something. You can also, in places like, say, when you're sending a proposal, if I go to the proposal page, I've got this send email button. Once you enable an SMS provider, you'll also see this SMS button. And super simple, same thing, pre-fills in. Again, you'll notice it's kind of a stripped down. It's got the link to the proposal and very minimal. You can edit all these templates, of course. And then let's see, I think those are the main manual ways. And then, and it applies to things like sending designs or, sending requests for designs or things like that. Basically, anywhere you see that email button, you'll start to see that SMS button. Well, let's take a look at automated messages. So if I go to manage automated messages, That's where you can set things that are, in order to automate them a little bit more. And you can also set various follow-ups. So say we wanted to remind our staff the day before an event that they need to be there. We do have some templates. Feel free to go through those, but let's create it from scratch instead. So what you can do, you can use any of the triggers. You can do it based on, a day after the booking comes in. You can do things like a day before the book date. You could do a message a day after the end of the event. You can do lead reminders, proposal reminders, all that stuff. But once you choose those, then what you're going to see is this drop down here. So, it defaults to send email, but you can just change that to send SMS. And so we can say, call it whatever you want, staff reminders, say. And we could say one day before the scheduled date, send a reminder to the staff. And just a reminder, you're scheduled to work tomorrow. And basically all of the same tokens are going to work. So you can do things like an event link, schedule, where it's located, times, dates, all that stuff. So why don't we do, let's see, let's look for a link here for our event link. And so you can include a link to that, and that'll just give them a link to see the details. Once you save that, then now every day, a day before the booking, we'll send out those SMS notifications. One thing to, I guess, be aware of or just know how it works is that when you do something like based on a day, we're not specifying a time in here, but generally that'll be about 11 a.m. in your local time zone, sometime between 11 and 11:30. And we'll send out that message, and that'll go to any of the staff assigned. If you've got multiple staff, it'll take care of it, and you're all set. If you want to do things like sending to your customers, it's basically the same process. If you want to do a lead reminder, you could say new message, after a lead comes in, I want to send them an SMS, maybe whatever, right away, an hour later, whatever. And again, you can send it to the client and put in your messaging. So it's pretty simple. There's not too much to it. If you've done the emails, then you'll find this real similar to do. Just remember to look for that little drop down there.
Yeah, I think the point is that you get all the conditions based on the data in your check cherry account are there. So you can do all kinds of great stuff. Send later. You can even do the review messages. To not send it. I mean, so it works. It's very, very, very similar.
Yeah.
Obviously,
and the
there's
review
no subject
messages are
line.
great with text messaging because for anybody not familiar with that feature, basically any message, any email or SMS that goes out, you can enable this. And what that'll happen is on that automation, it's going to go into a queue, into this messages queue here. And you'll have a chance to review it, approve it, decide whether to send it out, all that type of stuff. So that can be helpful. Especially with SMS where you don't want things, necessarily being annoying. So the other thing that's worth touching base on is what happens when somebody replies. With CheckCherry, we do have a way to, it's going to depend on the provider you set up, but we do have a way to, we will handle those replies. Basically what we're going to do is send you a message notifying you that a text came in. So, you can't necessarily be on your phone sending messages back and forth through CheckCherry. I mean, I guess you can use the app for sending messages, but in general, it's we're going to notify you when a message comes in, but it's not like you're using iMessage directly or something like that. And so with that said, let's take a look at the integrations. So to enable the integrations, what we're going to do is go to Manage, Business Settings, Integrations. And if you've already got it enabled, if you've got Twilio or Quo enabled, you'll see that at the top. But let's go ahead and disconnect these. And what you'll see down here, once it's disconnected, you'll see this SMS integrations section down here. And there's two choices, Quo and Twilio. And why don't I switch to the slideshow and show a little bit about how those work. Share that. Okay. Okay. So, between the two providers, why would you choose one or the other? So starting with Twilio, we've supported Twilio for probably like 8 or 9 years. It's kind of always been the default. And you can kind of think of Twilio as kind of a programmatic phone number. It's great for automation. It's very like developer focused, and it's been around forever. As a result, it has a lot of different integrations. And so you may already have it. We find it, especially in the photo booth world, that a ton of people already have Twilio. You need to set it up for some other service. Maybe your photo booth software sends out
Hmm.
text messages after. And the good thing about that is you can reuse that same number with CheckCherry and with other services. So if you've gone through the hassle of creating a Twilio account, getting that all set up, it's a great option for that. Another reason you might use Twilio is it has great international support. I think I saw something like 100 and something, 70, or I don't know, but lots of countries. So that's a good thing if you're not in the US. And the pricing is can be a lot cheaper than other things. So depending on what type of number you get, how many messages you're sending, basically they do more of a usage-based pricing. There's not really a monthly fee per se, but you generally start at like a cent per text message. I think there's maybe $1 a month or something for a phone number, a couple bucks a month if you do an 800 number, things like that. But it's pretty minimal in terms of price, unless you're sending like tons of text messages.
Right.
Some downsides, though, are that it's that initial phone number setup is just more complicated. It's kind of hard. It tends to trip people up. It's very finicky, and I don't think they do a good job of explaining how it works. And the UI as a whole is kind of confusing, and it is aimed at, I think, at developers, and so it's a little
Hmm.
it's a little tough to use. Quo is the one that we're announced or that we're adding support to. It used to be called OpenPhone. I don't know why they changed to Quo. I think OpenPhone's kind of a better name, but basically you can kind of think of it more as a business phone system, and it's just something we've seen a lot of people using in the
Our customers,
industry.
yeah.
Yeah, a lot of our customers have been using it. We actually decided to try it out. We were considering adding it, and then we ended up, that's what we use internally at CheckCherry for our business phone number. When we do phone calls, outgoing calls, things like that, we're using them. And basically kind of how they pitch it is it's designed for small teams to bring calls, texts, and contacts into one app. Basically, it kind of looks like this. It's got like your messages all in one place. You can go back and forth with people. You can, they have an app. You can sit on the app and send messages back and forth. All of your phone calls, your SMS, everything is like right there. So if that's something you need, it can be very helpful. Some downsides, it has fewer integrations. They haven't been around a long time. They're more aimed at being that phone solution than necessarily an integration solution. But that said, they do have an API that we're able to use. They're US and Canada only. So if you're outside of those countries, Twilio is your only option. And their pricing is more of a monthly type of thing. So I think it's, depending on what plan you're on and things like that, it's like 15 to, 15 and up a month. So, if you're only sending a handful of text messages, it's going to cost you more than just using Twilio. And then one of the benefits is it's a lot more user friendly.
I have some chats
Yep,
here.
absolutely.
Scott says, really love Quo. So happy the integration is here. That's awesome, Scott. Zen says, I have a Zoom phone number. Do they plan to integrate Zoom? So no immediate plans to integrate Zoom. I don't know that they do text messaging. I wasn't even aware of that. They
Yeah, I
offer
didn't know that.
phones. But no immediate plans. But obviously, we're open to other providers. And then Gerald and Richard have some questions, and we'll get to those kind of as this goes on about, will it work the exact same as Twilio, and how do I respond? Just to clarify, we'll touch
Yeah.
on that later. And then DJ Adam says, I'm switching from Ring Central to Quo. Is switching, I guess, worth it? And so I don't know, Scott, maybe you can answer that for him. I haven't used Ring Central. I think it's going to kind of depend on are you happy with the Twilio integration? Are you already using that? And kind of at the end of this, you'll kind of have more information. Oh, you haven't used either yet, so yeah. And Scott says he was switched from Google Voice to Quo, so much easier, pricier, but worth it in my humble opinion. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, I don't, again, really the reason Quo has been the first or the second, should I say, integration is we just saw a lot of our customers using it. And so we're always listening to what's going on, and we think you guys are going to like it. And there'll probably be others down the road, but yeah, this is where we're at today.
Yeah. Yeah, with part of the process of integrating Quo was abstracting a lot of the systems behind the scenes. So if we do, if there are things that people also use that they would prefer, we're certainly open to it. Obviously, they need some kind of an API or way to integrate, but we're certainly not married to any service at all. So let's go through the Quo setup real quick. So once you sign up for a Quo account, and they do have, I think, a free trial and stuff, but basically you'll kind of come to a page like this. Again, they're more like oriented around like a messaging center. So you can see all your chats in one place, or your text message threads all in one place. You can see your calls. They do some AI stuff that's kind of nice about like summarizing incoming calls and summarizing outgoing and all that type of stuff. It's nice too. So but for the purposes of setup, what you're going to want to do is within your Quo account, you're going to want to go into the settings and look for the API section. And within that, you can generate an API key. And so basically you'll just click that button, give it some kind of a name. They don't want spaces or any characters. So, pick something, one word, and they'll give you a long string of characters that you have to put in. So copy that and save it for later. You're going to need that on the CheckCherry side of things. And after you copy that, come over to CheckCherry, go to the Manage Business Settings Integrations that we were talking about before. Scroll down, look for that Quo integration, hit Enable, and you're going to copy or you're going to paste that API key right in here. So just drop that in, copy and paste. So have a couple tabs open, however you want to do it. It's also going to ask for your phone number. I think we're expecting it in kind of that international format. I think we'll normalize it automatically, but just to be safe, put it in that, +1 and then your number format. Once you do that and hit save, then you're going to see it in your integrations at the top. These are your enabled integrations. So you'll see Quo here. The upshot of that, once you enable that, then Twilio will no longer be an option. You can only have one or the other enabled. There's not really a reason to have both. But that's basically it for the setup. We'll talk a little bit more about some of the gotchas with some of this a little bit later, but that's it for the setup on Quo. It's pretty simple. You generate that API key, you copy and paste it into CheckCherry, and you're done. Once you do that, you'll see all of the different SMS features we talked about before. Twilio, a little more complicated, but if you know where to look, it's not too bad either. So basically, when you log into Twilio, you're going to see this account dashboard, or you're going to land on the account dashboard. Down toward the bottom, you're going to see a few different numbers here, or whatever you want to call them, strings. You're going to see account SID, auth token, and your Twilio phone number. You're going to want to copy all three of these, or open up CheckCherry in another tab. Next thing you're going to want to go do is under this develop tab, you're going to want to go to phone numbers and look at your active numbers. This assumes you've already created a number. If you haven't, go ahead and create a number under that buy a number link. But once you've got a phone number, you're going to see all of them listed here. Click on one of them, and it's going to take you to this configure tab. And what you're going to need to put in here is this long address, your business name.checkcherry.com/webhooks Twilio message received. We'll show you a little bit later where you can find an article on this stuff, but basically you're just going to put this in. When a call comes in, you're going to have a webhook. And what this does is this notifies CheckCherry when something happens. So if you've got our voice forwarding feature enabled, then we'll forward that along to your phone. or if you've got the text message webhook enabled, then we'll be able to know that somebody replied and we'll send you a notification. Go ahead and scroll down. Under messaging configuration, you're going to put the same thing. And again, it's just your business name /webhooks/Twilio/message received. And again, we'll share an article on this later. Last thing you're going to want to do is go to the properties tab for that phone number. And this one gets people a lot, but you're going to see what's called the phone number SID as well. And you're going to need that as well. So copy that somewhere too. Once you have those four things, the account SID, the phone number SID, and the auth token and the phone number, again, you're just going to go to CheckCherry, integrations, enable Twilio, and paste all those things in. Optionally, you can put a call forwarding number in there. What that'll do is, like, if somebody calls you, since this is just kind of a Twilio number that's not, it's not really a phone number, it's not your existing cell phone number, but you can put in a number that we can forward it to. So that way we can forward it to your cell phone or to, whatever. And once you do that, you'll see Twilio enabled under your integration. So again, it's a little hard to find those settings, but that's about it. And once you do it once, you're good forever. You don't have to do it again. One other thing that happens with Twilio sometimes is if you do have an error, if you do have like a configuration error, or if your account hasn't been verified, which we'll be talking about next, sometimes you'll try to send a text message to somebody and it'll just show like an error on CheckCherry. It'll say like undelivered, and then there's not a lot of info we get as to why something can't be delivered. But if you go to the monitor tab in Twilio, they have this error log section, and that'll tell you exactly why it failed. So if you are struggling with Twilio and you're getting errors, look there. And so for the basic setup on the CheckCherry side, I mean, that's basically all there is to it. We need the credentials so we can tell what account it is, and and then all of the features are unlocked. One of the things that really trips people up, though, is whether you go through Twilio or Quo, there's a process called carrier registration. You'll see different names for it, A210 DLP, different things for it. But what this is,
US only, Matt. Oh, it's US only, though. Let's just clarify.
This is US only. Yep, in the US. But it's if you want to send messages to a US number. So if you do, if you are in a different country and you want to send messages to the US, you also need to worry about it.
Right.
But if you're outside, if you're in Canada, mostly doing Canadian business, then you don't need to worry about it. And so what this is, it was rolled out between 2020 and 2023. First they launched it, and then they started kind of clamping down. And it's a requirement by the carriers that basically mean you have to go through a verification process in order to send text messages now. And so before that carrier registration, a few years ago, anybody could register a phone number. And so, the obvious result is we just got a ton of text message spam. You get text messages all the time about, buying things and doing stuff and whatever. So the carriers came out with this new standard. Every business, every automated sender has to undergo a verification process now. Every website, and it has to have your website, your business info, and everything must match exactly. We're going to come back to that. You have to have very clear disclosures anywhere you collect a phone number. You have to pay a fee to go through the registration. And it's kind of, a Byzantine process. It's kind of, you get confusing rejection reasons. It's not very good. And so the result of all that is we still get a huge amount of spam.
Totally. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. So whatever they did, it's the mission not accomplished on that. But how it works, so registration is mandatory if you want to send to US-based numbers. The Twilio, Quo, all these guys will let you set up a phone number. And it looks like everything's great, you're ready to go, but then when you go to send text messages, they just don't get through. And it's because you haven't been registered. But until you're registered, basically the phone companies are just going to drop your messages. As you go through that registration process, make sure you know what your business type is. It's going to ask you up front, what type, are you a business, with an EIN, an employer identification number, or are you a sole proprietor, in which case you have to use your social security number. Either way, you can register, but it's slightly different process. It's going to ask you different questions, and yeah, and know that going in. It's not easy to change later. So if you're still in the process of setting up your business, frankly, I would recommend waiting until everything's in order and then set up your SMS after. And the accuracy is critical. So that means your business name has to match exactly. Look at your paperwork. Make sure, if you have comma LLC, put it in there. If you don't. Your EIN needs to match exactly. Your address needs to match exactly. And I guess the IRS CP 575 is what they're looking for. But basically, whatever the IRS has on your business, make sure it's an exact match. Mismatches are the most common rejection reasons. So if you're not sure and you don't check, they're probably going to reject you. The next thing that comes up and that trips people up is, so under the new guidelines, consent is required to send SMS. And what that means is your customers, anybody that you want to send text messages to, you have to have permission. And as part of the verification process, they're going to check your website, they're going to check your online booking, and they're going to make sure that you're asking permission. So, and we'll take a look on the CheckCherry side, but if you've got a contact form on your website that collects a phone number, you better have a checkbox asking permission. If you don't, and if you don't have the right language, they'll reject you. Every contact form, go through your website, make sure every single one has that messaging asking for permission. If you don't collect a phone number, that's fine. You don't need to do it if you don't, but if you do collect a phone number, make sure that you have that opt-in messaging. And that also applies to messages you get outside of the internet. If you go to a wedding show or something and you get a whole list of people and you put their messages in, and you send them out through a Twilio or through Quo or anything else, you're really not in compliance. Like, you need permission, direct permission. You can't transfer permission. You can't get permission through another party. They're pretty specific about it. So just something to keep in mind. And expect some processing time. Nowadays, it's not too bad. Usually within a day or two, you'll get approved or rejected, but it can extend up to 30+ days. In the early days, when they were first rolling this stuff out, it would take months sometimes, but now it's not too bad. Now it's generally within a day or two. While that's happening, you cannot text US-based numbers. It won't work. And the fun thing, fees apply. So whether you're using Twilio, Quo, some other service, in order to get a number registered to your business, you have to pay this registration fee that works out to roughly $19-20. And then there's a small ongoing fee of something like $1.50 a month. What's really fun is if you get rejected, you get to pay the fee again. So make sure you get it right first time. These fees go directly to the phone carriers. This isn't something that Twilio or Quo or any of them are doing. It goes directly to the carrier. So it's yeah. And if CheckCherry ever does roll out kind of a built-in SMS feature, a lot of these same things are gonna, we'll have to comply with these same things and these same kind of hurdles and verification and going through the phone. So it's kind of frustrating. We would like to make this process easier, but it is something you have to go through. So, so what do you need to do on the CheckCherry side to get through the registration? One thing, once you enable Twilio or Quo, we'll turn this on automatically for you. But one thing that you do want to do, particularly if you use our contact forms or if you use our online booking, is you want to enable the SMS disclaimer. We'll turn this on when you enable Twilio and Quo, but if you're going through the process before you've enabled it, you might not have it on. And what you can do is go to Manage, Booking Engine, and this privacy and compliance tab, and just make sure this says yes. We'll have a default message in there. Feel free to, do research, and if you have a better default, feel free to use it. But generally, we don't have an issue with that. And that's it on the CheckCherry side. That'll enable the opt-in anywhere that we collect a phone number automatically. And it'll look something like this. We'll have this little checkbox, by providing your phone number, you grant us permission, blah, blah, blah. If you're using Twilio, what you're going to want to do is within your account, you're going to want to go to develop, and then under messaging, you're going to want to look for this regulatory compliance section. And when you go there, it's going to kind of show what your status is. And it's got this 3-step process. It's going to show, oh, you haven't finished it yet. First off, you got to create that profile about your business. That's where you put in your EIN and your business name and your website and all that. I didn't mention much about the website, but my understanding is you do need to have a website as well that has clear information about your business. It should broadly match what your business registration says and things like that. So yeah, make sure your website's in order too. After you do that, you're going to register what's called a standard brand. And this brand is, it's a one-time thing. Most of the time, unless you're doing something really unusual, you should be fine with what's called the low volume brand. And that's going to be a $4.50 one-time fee. And then once you do that, you have to create what's called a campaign. And so what that is, the whole process is it's almost like, they kind of think of it as like, a hospital sending out appointment reminders, or like, some kind of marketing firm sending out like campaigns or something. And so what they're going to have you do when you go through this campaign registration is give examples of the types of messages you're going to send. Obviously, with a tool like CheckCherry, it can be really varied. That maybe you're doing staff reminders, and maybe you're doing invoices, maybe you're sending proposals. Whatever you plan to send, make sure that you kind of have some examples about that. And I think it's kind of worth looking on, your favorite AI tool, your on Google, on ChatGPT, on things like that for some examples if you're struggling with the language to use. But they are kind of looking for certain things that you comply with. One of the things that they'll want you to comply with is that you say, hey, that you have to be able to let them know that they can reply stop to stop that messaging. And with CheckCherry's integration, both Twilio and Quo support that out of the box. So you don't need to worry about implementing anything, but you do have to include that in your messaging. On the Quo process, it's going to be something kind of similar. What you're going to do is you're going to go to Settings, Trust Center, and then you're going to have that same registration process. It's going to walk you through, where you set that up. I really found Quo's process much, much simpler. What was cool about it when I went through the setup for our account is they basically walk you through, like, they give you examples of exactly what to write. They're like, hey, just, if you're going to do this, they have a few checkboxes of what type of messages you're going to send, and they'll like give you examples to put in there. So you can almost just copy and paste those examples. Obviously tweak them if you need to, but basically they give you a lot better of kind of starting points for how to do that. And once you're done, typically wait a day or two. Hopefully everything goes through. You'll get through, and you're all set. So, after that, kind of some next steps beyond this. More resources on the CheckCherry side. So, if you're looking for more details, looking for more of a text-based description of how to set up Twilio, things like that. If you click on your name and go to support, we have lots of resources in there. You can also just search in the global search at the top, just type Twilio and it'll come up, it'll bring up an article on that. Give us a few days. We don't have a Quo article live yet, but we will be adding it soon. So give us a couple days, but we'll have a Quo video and a Quo article coming out soon as well. So either look for that global search or, check that support page. And of course, chat with us and we can help as much as we can. The problem with a lot of the registration process, which is where I see people mostly get held up, is it is probably something you'll need to reach out to Twilio or Quo on, because a lot of times it's real specific to your business. There's something, the EIN doesn't match or something like that, it's hard for us to really know. Feel free, if you get error messages and things like that, share them with us. We'll help as much as we can. But yeah, that registration process is kind of where I think most people kind of get a little bit stuck. So
cool.
So I think that's it for my slides and whatnot.
I've got questions in chat. So
absolutely.
So he said, so that I understand, Quo allows you to use your actual number and get replies to your actual phone number.
My understanding is no. You would still have a separate number, but that would be more of a business-wide phone number. You can port a number to Quo. So if you're using a Google Voice or something else, you can port that number to Quo. But I don't think, as far as I understand, and I'm not an expert on it, but my understanding is you cannot use your existing cell phone number with any other service.
If I have a Quo business account and I have a business phone number, then I can text message and take calls all from one number, and I can use their iPhone or Android app probably to be chatting with somebody right there, back and forth, just like
absolutely. Yeah.
So that's the big, and you can't do that with Twilio.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's clear. Carlos, go ahead. He's got his hand up.
Hi, guys.
Hey, good to see you.
Good to see you too, guys. Well, I'm feeling guilty. I was trying to do the Twilio over a week already, and I got rejected because I didn't have the consent from the potential client. So that's common.
It sucks. Yeah,
it's annoying. Yeah.
And the question that I have so far is, the slide gonna be available for us to watch it and then trying to set it up or start from scratch?
Yeah. So we'll generally it takes us about a day or so to get these webinars uploaded and the link sent out. That was actually one of the things I meant to mention in the support section, is that we have a webinars link. So that's where this will be. So, as I was kind of going through stuff, if you want to, obviously you don't want to watch the whole thing again, but if you want to zoom forward to that part, we'll have hopefully some chapter markers.
The webinar should be up tomorrow by midday or so. We're pretty fast about it, but Jacob does the editing and he gets it up the next day. You can also use that global search to search for webinars and find them. And then so here's a comment that is, when will the Quo appear in integrations?
Yeah, good question. So it should be there already under Manage Business Settings Integrations. If you don't see it, it's probably because you already have Twilio enabled. We only support one integration. So you'll have to disconnect Twilio, maybe save the credentials for later if you want to be able to go back. But disconnect Twilio if you see it up here in the enabled section, and then you should see it. It's down here, kind of the fourth panel down under SMS integrations.
And then one more follow-up here on the replies. So through Quo, the replies from clients from the automated messages in CheckCherry will send from our Quo number. Yes. Then if I reply back, it will show up in CheckCherry. So will it track the replies in CheckCherry?
So both. So with Quo, when somebody replies, we'll still be able to log it, and we'll log that history so you can refer back to it. But it'll also show up in Quo. And probably the reason you're using Quo is because all of your message, your phone and SMS in one place. So frankly, probably it's easier to be there, doing your messaging. But if you prefer to be in CheckCherry, that's fine. You can reply from either place. Both place supports replies. We'll log it either way. So yeah, it's up to you.
And then Gerald's got his hand up. Hey, Gerald, good to see you.
Good to see everybody too. I've got like 3 quick questions, and some of them is just like a yes or no, so you probably don't have to show them. So my first one, for the auto text messages, is there a condition to check that you've got that approval already, so that we're not sending it, like we're sending it out to all the all the clients on a particular thing? Is there a filter there to make sure that it only sends a text
There
message?
actually isn't. It is something that we probably should have in some capacity. The during the sign up, or as they come through the booking, you basically, the way we have it worded, we kind of treat it as a mandatory thing they need to check.
Okay.
Reason being, with services where somebody is like booking you for a service, that is fine. You're allowed to do that. You can kind of make it mandatory. If it's something like optional, like, hey, I'm just whatever, subscribing to a newsletter, it has to be optional. So we kind of treat it as mandatory. So everybody that goes through does check it, but there is a gap there of if somebody came in before, or if you manually added somebody. So
sounds good. I'm probably going to use it when I when I get a lead come in, basically just send them a text message. Hey, I sent you an email with a link to the lead. So it wouldn't be doing a lot.
And my understanding, I mean, read the requirements are worth reading through. They're not too complicated, but there are some things like you're allowed to reach out to somebody, I think, like once, unprompted, and you can, if somebody sends you a message unprompted, you can reply. Like, there's different exceptions and things that are worth
noting. Cool. My other question is that when you send a text message, do we get a notification that it was delivered and that they've actually read it? Because I have tried to send text messages. I have no idea if any of them have ever gone out, because I've never gotten.
Well, so what we'll do is, from Twilio, and I think from Quo as well, we'll get kind of an accepted or declined, so or accepted or failed. So if the phone number didn't work, within a minute or two, we should get a reply in that message history saying, oh, that didn't,
You'll see,
delivered. Bounced or dropped or whatever the thing is.
Okay, but you don't get a notification if they've actually read it, though. Like you would.
No. And Gerald,
that's
I don't
not
think
possible. Yeah. So with SMS, there's no way to know if they read it. There's no tracking built into it. Yeah.
And my last question is that at the bottom of when you were filling out the Twilio stuff, it had call forwarding. Is that, my question is, I guess if we put in the call forwarding there, our own cell number, can we reply back on our cell? So if you forward it through, I just don't know how we would. I don't know how to reply back. Like if somebody did get it and they replied back, how do I know that they replied, and how do I respond back to them? Because it'd be worse if they replied and I didn't respond.
Yeah, so the forwarding, what that'll do is, that's for voice calls. So if somebody calls you, we're able to forward that along directly to you. For the text messages, what we do on by default when you enable the text messaging is, we have a message. Maybe we don't. Let's see. I think we send out an email to you letting you know that somebody replied. Basically, you could also even set up an SMS saying, you could text yourself that somebody replied if memory serves.
Can we reply back to that though? Like if they do that and you send us an email and say they replied, and maybe we can even see what it is, can we reply back to that?
You have to click the link in your email, which will take you to a page in Cherry that's like, it'll take you to this page if you click the link in your email.
Wonderful.
So then you can type it in.
What I was looking. Okay, I was just afraid that they would reply and I couldn't reply back to them.
Yeah,
that would be an issue.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, Theo, you're up next. He's got his hand up.
Thank you. Quick question for you. So I recently had to redo my Twilio. Couldn't get it to go through with the local number, but got it to go through with a toll-free number. But in the Check Cherry dashboard or whatnot, I still showed the local number. How do I switch that to the toll-free number?
Yeah, so that should be under that manage business settings integration page. We should show the settings for Twilio. Like if you've got it enabled, it should be up here. And what you'll want to do, you want to make sure to do two things. Obviously the phone number, you want to change that. And then you'll also have a different phone number SID. Basically every phone number has its own SID for it. So if you change those two things, you should be good. Maybe double check your other account settings too. But yeah, go ahead and change those two and you should be good.
Okay.
And chat with us, yeah.
And then part of what Gerald's question just was. So do I need to put my actual business phone number for the call forwarding or leave that alone?
I mean, you can leave, it's up to you, but basically if you do put your business number there, then when somebody calls you, which is kind of rare to be honest, but if somebody calls you, we'll forward it along to we'll connect it to your direct, to that number, to that business number. So generally, I mean, people don't really call text message numbers that often, but if they do, then what'll happen is that'll just go directly to your line directly. So to your business line.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and one other feature, I didn't mention it, but it's worth calling out. So this is a recent addition to both Twilio and now Quo. I'm not sure if Larry's on the call, but it was his idea, and I think it's a no-brainer. But one of the things about text messaging is if you get a text message at 3 a.m., that's kind of going to suck. So we now finally support a feature called quiet hours or quiet time or whatever, where basically we will not send text messages between those times. And so if you put in a start time and, whatever you want, 6 p.m. to 8 a.m. or something like that, any message that the automated message system tries to send, instead of going out directly, it'll get delayed until the morning. So that's worth enabling to, just in case you have something go out, you don't want stuff going out in the middle of the night generally. And then the other thing that'll do is when you go to send a message manually, say you come in and do that, that message, we'll pre-fill in this send later option. If you really do want to send it immediately, feel free to uncheck that or change the time. But basically, we'll preset that for you so that, so you don't accidentally send something in the middle of the night. That just applies to text messaging. It won't affect email. I don't think it matters if an email goes out at 3 a.m. But for the text messaging, that's a helpful thing to enable. So
Kayla just commented, do we have the ability to delay auto emails yet? So
I believe
how would you want to do that? Maybe you can go in and delay an email, but not an auto email. Maybe give me an example. I guess give us an example what you're looking to do. And then Richard,
Okay,
go ahead.
Hey, sorry about the chaos in the back.
Yep, you're good.
Say, someone fills out our lead form and I have an email going out to them, 30 minutes after they are looking at a booth, it automatically feeds into a lead. I have an auto email going up, but they do it at like 11 o'clock at night. I don't want it to look like I'm sending out an email at 11:30 p.m. So delaying
like
any
quiet
auto
hours.
email, quiet hours for emails, basically.
Oh, interesting. No, right now the quiet hours are only for SMS. Yeah. It's an interesting.
But you want to make it look like you're not working late? Is that?
Yes, exactly. They don't need to know that.
Yeah. You can do it manually. So like if a lead comes in and, you want to send them a message, you can manually send, delayed later emails.
Right.
But just not the automated.
You could also mark it as to be reviewed, and you would have to manually review it right now.
Yes.
That would be another workaround, but that would be a lot of work too. So
I do that for our contact form. I just don't do that for those auto emails.
No, the only other last workaround would be disabling the automated messages entirely. But but just for that one customer.
Right.
But quiet hours for email.
I get you. Yeah, I totally see where.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I like it. Yeah. And then Richard's saying, can you explain the duplicate thing in the automated messages? Saw it in the top right above the require approval, sending a message.
Absolutely. So a lead comes in, say somebody goes through your contact form, they fill out their info, and they get a message. If they come through an hour later and fill it out again, do you want them to get another message? Basically, that'll control yes or no. And it's a little it's not always super straightforward, right? So if you do online booking, then somebody might come through and start to fill things out and you have a message go out to them. You probably don't want them to get additional messages on that online booking. If they come back a day later and then now you're sending another follow-up and they come back a day after that, now you're sending another, sometimes people don't like that or they don't want that to be happening. What this setting does is just deduplicates it. So once we've sent this message to somebody, we won't send it again. It only applies to this message. If you have a different message, they'll get that. That's fine, but they won't get the same message multiple times. And this really only applies to the leads. If somebody actually books you for 2 events, you probably do want them to get it. So it's really just kind of a lead specific feature. And it just makes sure that the same email address doesn't get the same message more than twice, even if they do something that would normally cause them to get it. So
cool. Well, we got 9 minutes. Any other questions? We can chat. Ron says, can you please tell me again where to get the quiet times for SMS?
Yeah, so you'll see that under Manage, Business Settings, Integrations, and then if you already have Twilio or in the future Quo enabled, it'll be in the configuration settings and just toward the bottom there. So yeah, just put in, and these are the times that we won't send. So put in like 8 p.m. until like 6 a.m. or something. So
Audie's here. He made it. Go ahead. You got your hand up. Good to see you.
Hello guys. Yeah, I've been here. I just stay low key. From you guys' experience so far, which one would you suggest? Like, because I have Twilio, but just for some reason never be able to set it up the right way. Which one would you really suggest between the QO, Quo, or whatever it's called, and Twilio? Which one, like, from if Matt, I believe you play with both. Which one?
yeah, they're kind of different use cases. I mean, they're different. Like one of them's like trying to be like a phone call software to manage your business, and one's just like being a programmatic number. But what I would say is Quo is a lot easier to use. So if you're like stuck with the verification and trying to get Twilio to work and it's just confusing, Quo is like a lot easier in my experience. They give you examples as you kind of go through, like even their like videos and their docs are better. Like honestly, like, I mean, if you want to stay with Twilio, like you might even look at Quo's documentation for what they recommend saying, because it's just a lot, I don't know, like I just found it a lot easier to use in my opinion. But they do, they are different products. But I would say the only downside is if you're only going to send like 10 SMS messages a month or something, like it's kind of annoying to pay 15 or 20 bucks a month for that. So
hey, but you get a phone number,
yeah, right?
Call people.
So it, there's reasons to choose both, but for ease of use, I would say Quo. For just, cheapest option, like, just want a programmatic phone number, don't want any of the other stuff, don't care about, AI, whatever, Twilio is probably going to be easier or better.
Theo, go ahead.
Thanks.
Yeah, so I just, like I said, got approved with Twilio, but I'm gonna be honest with you, I hate the way it looks, and it did take quite some time. Will I have to re-verify if I go to Quo, or could I just transfer the number and not re-verify?
That's a good question.
I don't know.
I don't know. I know they have a way to port numbers. I think of that as like I know you can like port your phone number from one like cell carrier to another. I don't know how all the porting stuff works with these guys. So you may be able to port that number from one to the other, or you may not. I'm not really sure. One thing I will say, if you have Twilio working, you probably won't ever have to log into it again. So, so there is that, once you go through the hassle of getting it set up, you're kind of done. But yeah, I'm not sure if you'd have to get re-verified or not, to be honest.
Okay, well then that's good to know that I won't have to because just the way it looks is horrible.
Yeah, it's yeah.
Cool.
And Twilio used to be great. Like they were so easy to use when we first integrated with them. Like everybody loved them because it was like, it's a great way to get phone numbers. You didn't have to log into Twilio. Like there was like a connect thing, and we could like do it all. And then yeah, they've just, I don't know, they've gotten not as good for sure.
So Soul Studio says the team is really looking for a time for staff in the scheduling. So I'm not following that 100%. Maybe you can unmute yourself and chat with us. Tell us what you're looking for.
Definitely, guys. I'm so sorry about that.
You're good.
I had a basketball game with my daughter, but
oh, nice.
good seeing you guys.
Hey,
yeah.
Basically, the team right now is really looking to have a schedule. Like, so basically, when we have multiple events or multiple packages going in from all the different packages and bundling, a way to assign them a certain time slot right now, like if we have a multi-day event or we have double events, we're running into the problem where it's like, okay, when do I show up?
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a thing, limitation of CheckCherry. So basically what he's looking for within bookings, you can have like kind of like multi-day,
packages,
multi-package, right, or things like that.
Different times for each
yeah.
package. Yeah.
Right now our staff assignment is just assigned to the full booking. But yeah, it's on our kind of roadmap. I don't know an exact ETA, but kind of some staffing updates are pretty high on the list of things.
It just so happens it's a really hard problem for us to solve based on our architecture. That's the only reason it's not in there. When we did multiple packages, we saw it and we're like, you know what, this sucks, but let's just keep on working on other stuff and see how much it comes up and all that. And it's just, it just so happens to be a difficult problem to solve, but doesn't mean we won't get to it. We might have to rework some things, all that stuff, but we get it. Yeah.
No problem at all.
Probably the highest thing, but it's up there. It's in the top. Certainly.
Well, it's
top
totally
handful of things that I think are going to come out. So yeah.
Hey Matt, great job. Any other questions? We've got a couple more minutes. If not, we'll be back in 2 weeks. Patrick's here. Go ahead, Patrick. Wait, let me unmute you. There he is.
Hey guys.
Hey man.
When are you going to add a mobile number to the field? Remember we talked about this? Add a mobile number to the contact form. You have one phone number.
If I remember, you wanted multiple numbers on a
2 numbers
on a user
so
account.
On a user account.
So he wants like a corporate person basically to have.
I see.
And I think where that's hard is like which text message do we send to, and and you can use that. You can currently do a custom field with the number. It's just not going to send text messages. I think it opens up some questions in terms of how if when we send a text, do we send it to just the same one? I mean,
because I guess I do a lot of corporate events, and a lot of times they're at work and they just put their work phone number, and then you have to, you
mean like a day of contact, I think you called it.
Yeah. So, and sometimes that day of comes on, it goes through a form, and I don't do that till later on. So I don't know. Okay. Well,
I would add him as a custom question, day of contact.
Here's what I would recommend. So on the lead form, I would do 2 things. Change the phone, the built-in phone. We kind of treat that as a mobile phone because that's what we find most people do. So I would rename it to specifically call it mobile phone because that's the one that we're going to use for SMS, things like that. And then what you can do is if you add a custom field, I would use that for just kind of the business phone. I'd call it business phone or company phone or whatever. And we're not really going to be able to do much with that, company phone, but that way you have it and just leave it as a